I would love to go to Japan. I don't know there's much going on there.
Ernie, what book are we?
15. We're
Tell me,
doing,
tomorrow is at 7:30. Sorry, I have to hang up.
Oh. We finished it. Okay. Yeah.
So we voted.
Beginning Birchas HaGomel.
Most people voted by mail. We voted.
It's right down the block. John Burroughs Junior High.
No, it's inside of what looks like in Latin gone in years.
I think one of the, I dropped off at the library.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But that's a collection. They already into it, and people already voted. Last guy named William. 4 months. William. Trump is 1 10 states, 10 out of 10 so far. Trump is 10 out of 10 so far. I always said, the only people that each of them can beat is each other. You know, Trump's leading him by about 4 points. Haley's by 15, leading him 15. Where did this come up from?
The Democrat comes published for Democrat.
Yeah, but maybe he'll choose her as a vice president.
Because they all changed their mind. But she's not the vice president type.
No.
Nikki Haley, which is too bad, because she'd be a great president. 10 out of 10, you can, 10 states that have been called. by Trump. It was 11. 11?
Okay.
No, best. He was already speaking. That time this year, though.
When I left, he was speaking already.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to go to students.
The question is,
Well, don't talk on this.
Yeah.
It's political.
Okay.
Question is, what will be good? That's it.
no,
Yeah.
meaning I don't like,
Well, that's not talking, you're being taped, right?
it doesn't make a difference. We are made to look like a banana republic with the Department of Justice bringing cases against a former president.
Yeah.
30 months, it's clear it was being done for political purposes, all these trials. They could have done it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this woman, et cetera.
Like South America.
So it's like a banana republic. It's just embarrassing.
Of course it is, but at least the Supreme Court gave him a good one.
Yeah. I would like to see the Supreme Court say that a president is
They'll
immunity.
get to
Is
it, but
immunity. How can a
I don't
president,
know how they can.
how can you come to a
conclusion.
president and claim
How
that
can he not be?
he has to sit?
Because that threatens every president in the future, that whatever he does, he's afraid it'll come up after he's out of office. It's not gonna go that way.
Never try to predict this.
Okay.
So,
we are on
Page 118.
volume 15, 117, Hilchas Birchas HaGomel.
Oh,
The bracha HaGomel is a unique bracha, thanking Hashem recited by a person in the presence of the congregation who has safely emerged from a situation of substantial danger. In this year, we will explore many of the critical aspects of reciting this bracha, including who recites it, when is it recited, and under what circumstances it is recited. First, let us preface the halachic discourse by introducing the text meaning of the bracha and the traditional response of those who hear the bracha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, hagomel l'chayavim tovos, shegmalani kol tov, who bestows goodness upon the guilty, who has bestowed every goodness upon me. And then the Kahal answers, Mi shigmalcha tov, he who has bestowed goodness upon you, hu yigmalcha kol tov sela, may he bestow every goodness upon you forever. There is some discussion in the halachic literature about the presence of the word kol to the bracha. And in the response. The Rambam does not include this word in his text of the bracha. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach is quoted as saying that logically it makes more sense not to include the word call. Nevertheless, the widespread custom is to include it. Sfardim recite the same text of the Brachas Ashkenazim, though they introduce it with a few words beforehand, declaring their intention to praise Hashem. The response of the congregation is also nearly the same as that recited by Ashkenazim. The phrase "He who has bestowed" is changed to "the God who has bestowed." Okay.
I think they also say kol tooth. I've heard of some saying instead of kol tov, they say kol tooth. Or shigmalani kol tooth. That's what the Sfardim say, I believe.
Mishig malcha tov,
No,
hu yigmatav kol tov sela. That's our nusach. Maybe the Sfardim. Okay.
Yeah.
They don't bring the Hebrew version of the Sfardim. They should have. As evident from the Gemara Masechta Brachos, this bracha fulfills the obligation to offer thanks to Hashem after surviving one of four perilous circumstances. Now, in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, what this meant is that you brought a korban toda. Korban toda is a korban shlamim. A korban shlamim is a korban that the owners of the korban actually eat the meat from. You have to give there are certain matanas that are given to the kohanim, but the owners, the people who bring the korban shlamim, eat from that korban. A regular korban shlamim, let's say you brought it Monday morning, you could eat from the meat Monday and Tuesday and Monday night. It was eaten for 2 days and 1 night. And then it becomes noiser like other korban. Usually, korbanos were only eaten for 1 day. Means if you brought the korban Monday, by Tuesday morning it would be noiser. You wouldn't be able to eat it. If you ate it, you got kores. You'd have to burn it if there's any left over. A regular shlamim was brought and could be eaten for 2 days. You'll see in a minute why I'm going through this. A korban toda, we're going to see there are 4 special people who are saved from something, and then they have to bring a korban toda, which was a korban shlamim, but it came with 40 loaves of bread. And the din of a korban toda is you could only eat it for 1 day. Instead of eating it like a regular shlamim, 2 days, you ate it for 1 day. Now, what's the big deal? Well, the amount of meat in a cow, let's say if it was a cow, it could be a sheep, it could be a goat. It's a significant amount of meat, and particularly if the 40 loaves of challah were massive. So I once heard a pshat in the concept, you have to invite a lot of people to help you eat it. Like Korban Pesach was eaten in a subscription with 10 people. It was eaten with a lot of people because all the same issue. You can't, these are korbanos. The meat cannot be left over. The chalas, the 40 loaves, once it's hugdash through the process of the zrika sadam and everything, it becomes sanctified just like the meat of the korban. And if any of the loaves are left over, it would also be noiser. So you to publicize the thanks that you're giving, you were forced to invite a lot of people with you. And so that when they ask, well, why all of a sudden with korban toda did they reduce the period of time that you could eat it from 2 days to 1 day? That's usually the answer given. It sort of forced you to invite a lot of people. We want there to be pirsum of this nace that you were saved from. Now, so Amar Vidam Rav, Arbot Tzrichin Lahoidos. 4 people have to give thanks. Yordei Hayam. So sailors, or somebody who went on a world cruise, just went on a boat into the ocean and came back, and it was considered dangerous. We'll see soon, I'm sure they'll get to it, that those of us who say Birkas HaGomel, after you fly, so flying in the sky was compared to sailing in the sea. So the Yordei Hayam, we say Birkas HaGomel when we come back after, let's say, an international flight flying over the Atlantic Ocean. We'll see what the poskim say, what determines that. It's similar to Yordei Hayam. Holche midbarios. People would travel in caravans through the desert, and it was dangerous. You could be attacked by armed robbers. You could, I guess, die of thirst. Mishai Cholim Nisrape. Somebody who was sick and was healed. Mishai Chovish Vesasurim Yotza. Somebody was in prison and was released from prison. My Mavarech. Now, at the time of Amir Rav, these are Amoyroim. Rav lived 180 CE, 200 CEs in the generation after Rebbe. So the Beis HaMikdash doesn't exist anymore. So there is no Korban Toda. So the Gemara says, how are you giving thanks? You make a bracha. What bracha do you make? My Mavarech. Amir Yehuda, Baruch Gomel Chasorim Toivim. The Birchas HaGomel. Abaya Omar, V'tzorech lo'idi kamei asara. You have to say the bracha in front of 10 people. Dichsiv v'yormamu b'kahal am. You shall elevate Hashem in a congregation of people. Kahal refers to at least a minimum of 10. In general, we usually use Ada, right? Because it says Adas Korach. It says, the Ada Samaraglim. Without Yoshua and Caleb, there were 10. And therefore, we learn Ada. So, but here they're also using the same concept with Kahal. So the requirement to recite the bracha in the presence of 10 people, as well as the specific identification of 4 individuals who must recite the bracha, are clearly implemented on the basis of Tehillim 107, which movingly describes the manner in which the survivors should publicize their gratitude to Hashem. The Gemara sees this chapter of Tehillim, where Vayaramamu B'Kal Am is taken from, it's interesting, the English quoted a little bit more psukim than the Hebrew gave. So the Gemara sees this chapter of Tehillim as concretely applicable to the realm of halacha. It is on the basis of the Gemara that the Torah rules that those surviving these 4 situations, imprisonment, illness, the sea, and the desert, are required to recite Birchas HaGomel. The Torah notes that these 4 may be remembered by the mnemonic device taken from the words of the Amidah, L'chol HaChayim Yoducha Sela. The letter of the word Chayim makes up an acronym for the 4 survivors. Chet stands for Chavush, prisoner. Yud stands for Yisurim, which is like suffering during illness. Yud stands for Yam, and Mem stands for Midbar. Chayim, that's the mnemonic to remember the 4 examples. Now, the Beis Yosef, who is Rav Yosef Karo, who is the main commentary on the Torah, the Rishonim debate whether the obligation applies only to these specific 4 circumstances or to all situations of peril. Kos of Od, says the Beis Yosef. By the way, we're in Orach Chaim Siman Reish Yud Tes. So some say it's very specific, these 4, and it's only they. But let's say you were in some kind of other dangerous situation, but not necessarily these 4. If you made a bracha, a Birchas HaGomel, it would be a bracha levatola. It would be an unnecessary bracha. V'chein posek harav Shem Tov polchu b'shem ha'toisfus. The elu arba dafka, that it's these 4. Vuadin b'chol mokum shemaskar Talmud mispar. He gives you a rule. If you notice, Amar Rav said arba tzrichin lahoitos. It didn't say elu tzrichin lahoitos, the following. It actually gave you a number. So Tosas is learning that the numbers is coming to limit. It's only these 4 cases. Otherwise, the Gemara wouldn't have given us a number. Aval HaRivash, Kosav B'tshuva, the Rivash is a Rishon who wrote in his Tshuvas that Sha'alta, somebody had asked him, Adam Rina Beperak HaRoya, Arba Tzrichim Loidos. Me name Ani Dafka. Somebody asked him, is these 4 Dafka, or could it be other cases? The guy's building a house and a wall falls on him. Or an ox gores him and he survives that. Would we say that he doesn't make a bracha? Maybe it's certainly kavachomer he'd make a bracha. Tshuva says the Rivash, Nira shetzorech levarich. So the Rivash against Tosfos seems to say that you should make the bracha no matter what dangerous situation. Sharei holchem midboris utzrichim lohodos zeh with nesakonas aryeh. I guess there were lions. V'ganovim amitzuim bedrachim. Vim came. Kishamar alav aryeh letarfo. When a lion stood and he was going to attack him. Afilu be'ir, even in a city. Or im ganovim bolo im shori laila. Even in the city, robbers are coming at night to your house. V'nitzl mehem. It's not just in the desert. He sees it as a kavachomer that certainly you should have to make the bracha. The 4 that were mentioned in the psukim in Tehillim, because it's a general case for most people. If a person was going to die for whatever reason, and he was saved, it's certainly he should make the bracha. Sharei kavu alav bracha cheres levarich k'sheyavor od b'makamahu. When a person has a miracle that is performed for him at a certain location, there is a bracha that if you find yourself in that same location, you should say a bracha, Baruch sha'asali neis b'makom hazeh. So the kol shekain shemiyat shenitzel. So he's saying, let's say a year from now, 2 years from now, at some point in the future, you're going to be at that place and you're supposed to make a bracha. Then certainly now, immediately after you were saved, shenitzel tzarkol lo'oidos kederch harba shetzrichim lo'oidos. V'lo sheyifta me'birchas soido b'bracha sha'asali neis shechayvu levarich k'sheyosh lo b'makom hahu. You're not yotze enough with the thanking of Hashem that maybe if you're going to be there again in the future in the place, we go, maybe you'll never be there again in your life. You'll never make the bracha of Baruch Shasali Neis Mokum Hazeh. Elavade nire shebirchas ha'udos mevorach osu b'chol mokum ad kan l'shono. So all of this was the Rivosh, and the Beis Yosef quoted this long tshuva from the Rivash to show that it's a strong opinion. Thus, while the Abu Dram, now the Abu Dram is also a Rishon. The Abu Dram wrote a machzer and a siddur. So a lot of our minhagim for tefillah are based on the Abu Dram. But he understands that the Gemara limits Birchas HaGomel to the strictly limited list of survivors mentioned Tehillim. So, but the Rivash, that the list represents a framework of models for including all those whose lives have been endangered. This debate is cited in the Shulchan Aruch when Rav Yosef Karo wrote the Shulchan Aruch, who endorses a compromise rule. Those whose status is uncertain should recite HaGomel as an informal bracha without the mention of Hashem's name. The Gemara in Masechta Brachos 54a states that one should recite a bracha every time that one passes a place in which he experienced a miracle, provided that he has not seen it in the past 30 days. And that bracha is distinct from the Birchas HaGomel. Says the Shulchan Aruch in Orach Chaim Siman Reish Yutes Seif Aleph. Arba tzrichim loidos. He brings the Gemara. Yord the Ayam kisha'olam mimena. When a traveler in the ocean comes back, Holchem midbaros kishiyagiu liyishuv. Travelers in the desert when they come back home. Misha yecholav nisrap is somebody who was sick and is healed. Somebody was released from prison. Says the Shulchan Aruch in Seif Tes, Ani Arbo Lav Dafka. These four, it's not specific. You would have to make the bracha of Agomel any miracle. A wall fell on you. Or you were gored by an ox. Even in the city, not in the desert. A wild animal like a lion tries to attack him. He's attacked at night by robbers. He brings the Abu Dram. So the Shulchan Aruch sort of reaches a compromise position that if it's one of those other things not mentioned in the Gemara, you should make the Birchas without mentioning the name of Hashem. The Mishnah Berurah writes that the practice is for all survivors of life-threatening circumstances to recite the complete bracha of Agomel formally. Mishum shemitzuim b'yoser tiknu aleim birchas Agomel. That the four that were mentioned are more common. That's why they were mentioned. Masha'enkim ein she'einam shchichim klal in levarch aleim Agomel, but not to say that the ones that are not common you wouldn't make the bracha. Labahani denasalem neis yivarch she'asali nis neis k'shegilos u'makom. So first of all, he says, if you were saved through a miracle, when you get back to that place, there's a bracha that you should recite. Umi shalach baderech, afilu shelo b'makom sakon. If you're walking, even not necessarily in a dangerous place, uval of listim argo, and armed robbers tried to kill him. And v'achronim kotzu d'aminik kitzvah rishona of the Shulchan Aruch that you should say Shemu Malchus v'chein mistaber. And the Mishnah Berurah writes that whenever you have to say the Birchas Agomel, including being saved for the non-four items, you would make the full Birchas Agomel. See the Sharat Siyun. It's a commentary that the Mishnah Berurah himself also wrote, who writes that even according to the second opinion, meaning the Abu Dram, that limits Birchas Agomel to the four instances, one recites it if bandits attack him on frequented roads. He explains that deserts were singled out since bandits are especially common there. But if bandits attacked on regular roads, there too, one would recite Agomel. Okay. According to Mishnah Berurah's conclusion, it would seem that anyone saved from any actual danger should recite the bracha. This position is accepted by Ashkenazi poskim as applied in a variety of circumstances. When discussing Agomel, the Shevet HaLevi Rav Shmuel Vosner addresses soldiers returning from missions or from service. Be'inyan ha'sheila rishona, masha kasuv kvod torato ala chayalim shehem b'makom sakana. Somebody asked Rav Vosner, soldiers that are in a dangerous place, Eini odeya irachmanu l'tzan shebiyosum sham avru matzav shel sakana b'poel ayedei hatkafot mechablim. He doesn't know for sure if they had a sakana because of terrorists, want to kill him. If that's so, in King Pshita, the Yavarchu, Yishabol Beisam, the sakana is also called Ponim Nigmra, that when they come home and they're safe at home, they should recite Birchas Agomel, Mi Yodem Im Yeshna Od. It's not. We don't know if there's going to be danger in the future. Avalim Rachmana Latzlan, Makom Sakana, Shashetach, Umakom Vadrachim Sham Mesukanim. You have a territory that's dangerous, and the roads are dangerous. Avaloya Sakana B'Pol. They're potentially dangerous, but it's not. It's like you drove through the Yudav Shamron, but you weren't mamish attacked by somebody. Im kein lechuura, naflinin brevusa de ladasa tosas varosh, that in brachos dafka sakona b'poil, you have to have a real sakona that you go through. V'nitzlu mechayvam b'toida. It's only if somebody actually physically goes through a sakona and is safe from it that you chayav a bracha. But these roads are potentially dangerous. You drive and you didn't actually go through something dangerous. He's mesupik, or at least he's going to say l'dasa Ramban with the ime dechol hadrochim b'cheskel sakona. All roads are dangerous. The gam makam sakona gorim avol pish lo'isa ma'isa sakona b'foya. So he says, in the view of Tosfos and Rosh, who argued regarding those other the things other than the four, they would tend to say not to do it. But according to the Ramban, he brings that roads in general were dangerous. That even if there was not a dangerous incident, the Ramban would say, if you came back safely, you would make the bracha. So if Mashakosav Lamala ain't a bor rak l'dasa soiver, the gamba arbet tzrichim lohidas kayamu midbar, that only this approach is only good regarding the one who holds that you only say the berachas agomel for the four, like yamu midbar bevorchim rak shabasa kana shel mamish liyada. Aval lefia muskam bepoiskim the dalit shetrichim lohidas afilu lonet the nasu b'shum sakana bepoel. Most poskim hold that people who went through an ocean, perhaps they didn't go through it. There was no iceberg. There was no dangerous situation. He's saying, "Afilu nasu b'shum sakana b'poel im kain hu adid b'nidon didan chayovin." So perhaps in our case too, certainly according to Ramban, when somebody is traveling on a dangerous road, even if nothing happened and he was safe and he came back safely, there would be a tzad to say that you should make the bracha. Just like he says, look, if you travel on the ocean, nothing specifically dangerous happened, you still make the bracha. Now, afal pita b'shulchan aruch, b'seif yud, maybe das yeshomer, ta'anach dal davka, right? That the opinion of the Abu Dram, that it's only the four that have to make it. Other people don't, not like the Mishnah Berurah learned. Kvar kosva poskim, the dasa go only lintos achrem avor, b'seif tes, v'im came pshita the misha bo mishetach sakona. Somebody came from a dangerous territory, mamoshis, mukav sholim v'roitzka, that's surrounded by murderers. Alpha got the loikara nes b'foil. It's not like they were attacked and they were saved. There's no open miracle. Bahagufa nisa, he thinks it's still a nes. The yotzel l'chayim. And they came out alive, lo pachos me'ovri yomim. No difference than people who went on the ocean. Kol hazman bayam shaket, even though you took a silent Mediterranean cruise on very, stable waters. The etzem avar bayam nechshav nes. Passing through the water and coming back is considered a miracle. So according to Rav Vosner, who following the Mishnah Berurah, the accepted practice is that one recites a gomel after emerging from any situation of danger, even those not mentioned, the four in the Gemara. Therefore, soldiers emerging unharmed from any location of tangible danger should also recite a gomel as being in proximity to terrorists and other dangerous individuals, is defined as a situation of danger. One more common issue today surrounds the question of people who survive car accidents. This issue was discussed by Rav Moshe Feinstein and Negros Moshe, who assumes that one recites a gomel in any situation where one's life was in danger. But he differentiates between cases of danger in which damage is inflicted and those in which the entire collision is averted. Says Rav Moshe, Lachein, Av she'ata b'mdinaseinu, in America, nosim b'mashinim.
In fact, in yeshiva, if you wanted to ride, the Hasta machine, You have a car, to give the rest of your ride, that's the word that was used.
So even though Rav Moshe notes that in America people drive cars, and he notes Shioter Matzuich Shash Sakana, and there's danger. Nami Ein Tzarich Levarich. You don't have to make Birchas HaKoyim every time you drive a car. Ela K'Seira Chatz V'Sholom Eze Davar Shapogu V'Nogu HaMashinim V'Lo Husku. Two cars crashed into each other, and he survives unscathed. He says there's a bracha. Aval Kishahaya Kishur Shelo Nifka B'Mashin Acher. Let's say you averted an accident, you swerved to avoid an oncoming car, and there was no contact. So it would be the same as there was no hope. So that's how Rav Moshe paskins, that if there was damage to your car and was potentially threatening to you, you'd make a bracha, but not if you averted it. However, the Yalkut Yosef, in contrast to the Ashkenazi poskim, confirms the recommendation of the Shulchan Aruch for Sfardim, according to which the bracha v'agomel is instituted only for the specific list of 4 survivors. Right? The Mishnah Brura is an Ashkenazi, and so we're following that approach by being more expansive in what we say Birchas HaGomel for. The Sfardim basically follow. Remember, the Yesh Omrim said that Ein Mavarchin, Ella Hani Arba Dafka, and for the other ones, you would do it below Askar Shem Malchus. You wouldn't say the name of Hashem if it were the other. So the Sfardim, Mishan Itzu Metunas Drachim. You were safe from an accident, but this Mabish, you had damage. L'didon ein levarach hagoymel. The Sfardim don't do it. V'afim hayu imo berechav keilish nifzu kosher. Even if there were injured workers. Now, there's a problem here. If someone's injured and in the hospital, he's a choila, and he's going to get healed. So he's going to require a gomel for that. Now, unless their definition of chola is not somebody who was, let's say, wounded in an accident. A chola may be someone who develops an illness, which might be different. I don't know, maybe. Don't know. There are shittas like that by chola, like if you have a versus some kind of external thing. Because if somebody was nifza kasha, had brain trauma, needed surgery, and like that, well, we would certainly think that he would be a chola that was nisrape and would say a Birchas HaGomel when he comes back to shul. But according to the Sfardim, since it's not one of the Dalid, but chola shenisrape is one of the Dalid. So we'd have to ask the Yalkut Yosef that. Ochas v'shol nergu ba'osu to that. Let's say the accident was so severe that people died. Eina nitzon mavarch ma'goymel. Those that were saved don't make a bracha. Ela im kein shayib b'nisiyos malach shav v'reva. If they were traveling for an hour and a quarter, they would say Hagomel. We will learn in the continuation, according to Yalkut Yosef, one who travels a minimum distance of 72 minutes should recite Hagomel, since intercity roads are treated as being inherently dangerous. Okay? Sha'az yichol mevarch Hagomel on the Siyah. Somebody goes swimming in the ocean. He was drowning, and the lifeguards had to come and save him. Even since he didn't get sick, so I wish he would have clarified the issue about the niftzah kasha. There he's nafal l'mishkav. A soldier who's fighting. He's killing people. People are being killed. When he comes back from Milchama, he doesn't say Birchas HaGomel. Okay? Crossing the desert or the sea and other modern methods of travel. In the Gemara, we saw that Birchas HaGomel is required for those who walk in the desert. They use the word holchei midbarios, which, strict definition, they walk. The Rishonim discuss whether the brachos necessitate primarily by the travel or by the desert. Like if you ride in a camel in the desert, would you be required if you came back from a caravan to say the bracha? This issue will determine whether a person must recite Birchas HaGomel upon completing travel when that travel does not involve the desert. According to the Rosh, one would recite the bracha only after crossing barren deserts, but not when traveling between cities. Noagu ba'Ashkenaz v'Tzorfat. It was a minig in Germany and in France, she'ein mevarchim Birchas HaGomel. Kisholchim me'ir le'ir. When they traveled from Mainz to Worms, they did not recite Birchas HaGomel. You're walking had to be through desert, where the shchichi bechayis philistim, where there's wild animals and robbers. Now, medieval Europe was an extremely dangerous place. You had highway robbers. The Rosh moved to Toledo, right? Remember, we saw
Yeah.
the Yellens and us and Susie and I were on a trip to Spain with Professor Shapiro, and the Rosh was like the Posek Hador, and he moved. I think there was some reason that it's for safety reasons. Remember, they left Germany and France. I think he had to actually go to different places for safety reasons at that time, and he ended up in Toledo, which is in Spain, where he wrote his Chuvas. So there's a Maimer Chazal in the Yerushalmi, which stated that all roads are dangerous. Lo onru el le'in filas haderech bilvad. That was for the previous year we had, filas haderech. Shebechol hadrachim tzarich adam levakesh al nafsho. Birchas HaGomel b'mokum toda niskana. It's a different geder. It's a different standard. The Birchas HaGomel is to replace the Korban Toda when you give thanks. And I guess the standard is higher. That's how the Rosh learns, that intercity travel would not require a Birchas HaGomel. By contrast, when the Rambam in Hilchos Brachos describes Birchas HaGomel, he writes that the bracha is recited by those who travel any kind of road. Rambanan to understand the Rambam to mean that Birchas HaGomel applies to all travelers, and the Beis Yosef writes this as well. Beis Yosef in his commentary on the Tur. Mimasha Shina Holchem Idbarios. The fact that the Rambam changed the word Holchem Idbarios, so Omer B'Gemara, the Kasav Bim Koma B'Perek Yud, and the Rambam wrote in Hilchos Brachos Perek Yud, Holchei Drachim. So the Beis Yosef is medayek, is deducing from the change in word from Holchei Midbar to Holchei Drachim, that it refers to crossing any road. When Rav Yosef Karo brought this in the Shulchan Aruch, he reports that the Ashkenazi practice accords with the Rosh, which is not to say when you travel between cities, and the Sephardic practice follows the Rambam, which is why the Shulchan Aruch says Ba'ashkenaz v'Tzorfat ein mevarchim kisholchim ir le'ir. The Ashkenazim didn't do it from city to city. They only required it if you travel in the desert. There are no deserts in Europe that I know of. The shchichi bechayis ras v'listim. Uvisfarad noagim levaret. In Spain, the minig was when you traveled in cities. It's interesting. Spain was more deserty. There was more arid climates like that. I don't know if it would be officially considered a desert or not. And they should call it drachim b'cheskas sakona. So, right, the Rambam actually didn't use the word desert anymore. He did it based on the fact that the roads were dangerous. But here it gets the 72-minute business, the 1 hour and a quarter, that if you're going to travel less than a parsa, you wouldn't make the bracha. But if it's a road that there was a chazak of danger, afilu b'pachos miparsa. The measure of a parsa, which we said, is equivalent to 4 mil, 3.8 kilometers, according to Chaim Noah, and 4.6 kilometers according to Chazon Ish. Remember, we learned do you do it based on distance or you do it based on time? Okay. Accordingly, the Ashkenazi custom is not to recite a bracha when traveling from one city to another. By contrast to the Ashkenazi practice, the contemporary Sephardic Sefer Yalkut Yosef writes that a person should recite Birchas HaGomel after returning from every trip, which takes 72 minutes, the time necessary to walk a parsa. Parasang, is that an English word that describes a distance? Parasang. From parsa. Maybe parsa was a Persian word or an Aramaic word. Whether by private car, public transportation.
An ancient Persian.
Persian. So parsa is a Persian word. And then they took it, the English took it as well.
They say it's 5.56.
Okay. Parsa. This is the Yalkut Yosef. You travel from city to city, 72 minutes. You only say the bracha when you come back to where you started. If you're going to come back home within 30 days. When he arrives to his place, he doesn't break it. But there are arguers. If he makes the bracha when he arrives at that city, you have somebody to rely on. According to this analysis, commuters might be expected to recite Birchas HaGomel a great many times. However, further on, the Yalkut Yosef rules that regular travelers should instead recite the bracha once a week to cover all the journeys undertaken during the week. Misha Rogel and Somi year. Somebody drives from Yerushalayim to Tel Aviv every day. Midei Yom l'mokom avodaso. V'shor ben siyosu shava chomesh. And it takes 72 minutes to drive from city to city. Nachon shivar chagomel pam b'shavua. Comes to shul on Shabbos, he should make Birchas HaGomel. B'Shabbos, v'yitros kol nesir shenatzu b'meshach HaShavua. Very interesting. Shita.
If you go by 72 minutes, you take the 405 and you go.
San Diego.
Yeah, you go,
Yeah, right.
you
Anyways.
go from the valley to the city during, well, to the airport, you go to the airport during rush hour, it's definitely more than 72 minutes. And it's.
Okay, well, that's this. So the Sfardim, maybe there are Sfardim. I don't see, I don't see the Sfardim in our shul do this. Maybe they don't travel. I don't know. So the position of the Yalkut Yosef significantly reduces the number of times a person would be required to recite a Gomel. Former Sephardic chief rabbi Rav Mordechai Eliyahu reduces this number even further and rules that a commuter should recite a Gomel only once a month. Now, the safety of travel may certainly vary depending on a large number of factors, including weather. Somebody tonight just told me he's at a certain age now. If it rains at night, he does not go anywhere. Isn't that what he told us?
During the day or?
No,
No, he said at night, if it rains, he will not drive.
It's dangerous.
You know,
Even if they're hangar.
Topography and crime. Accordingly, the bracha of HaGomel for travel anywhere in the world is subject to current circumstances. He cites the Pnei Halacha, especially according to Ashkenazi custom. In your travels, when you ended up in Hong Kong, or were you told, don't go to this, I mean, when you,
Some places like Russia, Disney travel, security still give me a briefing. Some places like Russia, I recall specifically.
where they said, don't go,
Don't go here, don't go there.
interesting,
Hong Kong, no, Hong Kong is with safe citizen.
okay,
But Russia, I remember.
okay. With respect to the category of those crossing the sea, the parameters closely parallel those of crossing the desert. Sephardim would recite the bracha even for leisurely travel on the water, while Ashkenazim would not, as explored by the Piskei Teshuvos. The Bir Halacha, which is a commentary of the Mishnah Berurah by the Chofetz Chaim, Dan, so he discussed Le'ina Maflik Besfina, somebody is taking a pleasure sailboat. Obeduvra, he says, there's a raft, Benaros Agdolim, on a big river. Kayak?
Like river rafting.
V'tole b'machlokas minag Sfard v'Ashkenaz. It's based on this machlokas between minag Sfard, minag Ashkenaz. Leminag Sfard yevarchu, uleminag Ashkenaz lo yevarchu. V'yesha kosvim shebizmaneihem shayim afligim ba'oniyot. In their day, where they would sail, mefarish haya eze inyan shel sakana gam b'nar sagdolim. So there was danger, even on rivers. Aval bizmanenu, shemafligim ba'aniyot kitor, steamboats, v'chadome, ve'ein shchiach klal hazek, and therefore there's no worry. Afla min exfar, ein levar chalaflaga b'nar v'yomas k'tonim. For example, the Mississippi River used to have those
Steamboat,
yeah, but the paddle wheel.
paddle
Paddle wheels.
steamboat.
Yeah, the steamboat paddle wheels. So he would say you wouldn't have to do it, or like a small lake. Kiyam Kineret. Gamba floga b'yam, samach l'chof. For example, I used to take my family out to the marina, and we would take a little boat out, and you'd go out a little bit on the Pacific Ocean. That's what he's talking about here. Ba'afloga b'yam samach l'chof. We didn't go to Santa Catalina, just a little bit. Yeah, you see the shore. Derech tiyul v'chad ein levarech. Ela im kein nichnas la'omek hayam. You got to go into the depths of the sea. B'mahalach nesiyah shel shav v'chomish. Again, the 72-minute business. Ulaminig Ashkenaz gam b'nesiyah la'omek hayam b'mahalach nesiyah shel shav v'chomish ein levarech. Even for Ashkenaz, a 72-minute boat ride is not enough. Elam kein hiflig la'omek hayam l'meshech eze yomim. He wants to say the boat trip should be days, a minimum of days. Then you're called someone who goes into the sea. Or Niklu Sa'ara, you were caught up in a storm. Then Susie, do you remember we were out and massive waves began and we went with Dave Beck and we had to come back. Remember that? Okay, what about air travel? With respect to Birchas HaGomel, the advent of commercial air travel may be the most dramatic change between the world of the Gemara and the Rishonim and that of today. The poskim of recent generations have discussed under what circumstances a person would recite a Gomel after flying. Is this treated similarly to regular travel on the roads, or is it considered more dangerous? Does the halacha differ if one flies over a desert or an ocean? So contemporary poskim offer one of three different basic rulings. Rav Ovadia Yosef and the Chavidas rules that an air passenger should recite a Gomel. Since the precarious nature of air travel parallels that of the sea journey, one should recite the bracha. Rav Moshe, this was a psak that we grew up with. Like we said, they compared our poskim, Rav Ovadia and Rav Moshe, compared air travel to sea travel. Takes a similar approach, arguing that flying is similar to traversing the sea, since in both, only the ship or the airplane protects one from the surrounding environment. if God forbid the vessel would malfunction, one's life would be in danger. Says the Igros Moshe. Hinei b'dvar nesia be'aeroplane. Im tzorech levarach hagomel. Kishaya b'yom shaked. Uvelo shum chisaron ba'mechona. V'lo ira shum davar b'derech. Rav Moshe is talking about an air flight. It's not bumpy. It's very calm. There's no damage to the plane. Like sometimes the pilot will come on, one of our engines or, no, everything is fine. He still thinks it's clear that you need to make a birchas hagomel. There's no shining to those b'simin reish yud test. See if test ani arba dechashiv b'brachos lav davka shekein savi rav achronim. According to those that hold that the four things mentioned in the Gemara are not specific, and in fact we've learned tonight that most achronim hold that way. That's how the Mishnah Berurah holds. El afla soivrim, the dafkani arba nam yesh levoch b'trei taimi. So Rav Moshe is coming at it, even to those who hold, like the Rosh and the Abu Dram, that the four things are dafka, because he's going to make a tzushtel, he's going to make a comparison between flying and the ocean. Chadadu mamish kesfina. He says from logic, the plane is like a boat. Dunami ena holech ala aretz. So first of all, you're not on terra firma. Both when you're in the water and when you're in the air, you're not on the ground. That's really the difference between a boat and riding on a wagon. Traveling on a road is not different than sitting in your house. If nothing is going to happen, there wouldn't really be any danger. They thought that the danger on roads were robbers, bandits, wild animals, meaning you're not in a wagon. But he's talking about if you're traveling on a wagon in a normal way, it's being like you're in your house. Aval b'sfina, shu alamayim, hari etzem alichu in sakona. Traveling on the water is by definition itself dangerous. Historically, not something like that. Even traveling on a boat, it's like an amazing thing that you can come back alive. Just like a fish can't live on the land, we can't live in the water. You can only live a little bit. The ship, excuse me, the ship is protecting you. Boats can break. And maybe you can't be rescued. So therefore, listen, if all of a sudden the plane wasn't there, we'd be 35,000 feet in the air. It'd be a lot worse that if a boat sank, listen, you could swim in the water for 10 minutes. I mean, so that's what he's trying to say. It's a kavachomer. The being up in an airplane is worse than being in a boat. He says, "Kol shekain be'airplane, shegaru mimai, shav rega echad en yachol lichyot ba'avir." He says you can't live for even a minute. Shavada she'shivasu be'airplane hu hatzala. Just sitting in the plane, you're being saved. It's like a magic carpet, is basically what he's saying. And it's all miraculous. See, you're going to see Rav Moshe wrote in the 1950s and the 1960s.
I bet this is one of his earlier too.
Okay.
I feel that way too, though.
1959, the Boeing 707. Up until there was the DC, there was the DCs. So it's the first jet was 1959. So Rav Moshe's mindset is that it's still miraculous. Rav Vosner passed away 2-3 years ago. He had a whole different concept. And by the way, you remember in the 60s and 70s, there were airplane crashes I remember growing up in the headlines, there were airplane crashes all the time. Hundreds of people died here, there. You just don't hear about that anymore. It's become much safer. So we should keep our eye on how these tshuvas change over time. It may be interesting. V'imken kol sheken be'airplane, shavad yeshivas be'airplane huat solov, v'kiven she'ir l'famim shemiskalkel airplane, even the plane can have malfunction. Harinami nimsa she'nat solov bruah shlachein yesh lahodas berachas hagomel. So I'm going to stop here. We'll finish air travel. We'll deal with imprisonment, recovery from illness. Okay, I'm not sure we'll finish next week. Any questions, comments, Harut?
The point seems to be, according to Moshe, that it's really, if something goes wrong, there's very little opportunity for rescue.
There's no wiggle room.
There's no wiggle room, there's no chance. But I wonder how statistics plays into that. We know that if a plane loses both engines, it's gone. There's no chance. But statistically, you are 1,000 times safer, more than in a plane, than you are in a car. There's no question about it. I mean, if you look at the statistics of miles traveled per, lives lost per mile traveled in a plane, they're minuscule compared to a car. So we wonder how the push and pull between the statistics of what's safer.
He claims just being up in the air and sitting in a plane is itself miraculous.
I think it's
You understand? He's not even talking about an accident. He's talking about sitting in the plane
I agree.
is a miraculous thing. That's what he said.
Sure, but statistically, I was on
What
the-
Yaakov brought up, those on the computer, Yaakov brought up, the statistics say that when you fly in a plane, it's safer than when you safer when you drive a car. Does that play a role today? We're gonna see whether the post can deal with that.
I'm sure the sea as well. Ocean travel is very safe these days.
I remember being on a flight.
Unless you're going in the south of Africa or the India, and they are sold the pirates.
They look 1,000 people. Yeah, that's right. You're going through the Houthis.
The Houthis, yeah.
Never forget it. Because it's true.
I don't know.
Okay. Very good, everybody. Have a good
Thank you.
Shabbos.
Good night.
Okay, Shkoyach.